Hello guys, welcome to another video of CMA US Section A Part 1 series where we are discussing about external financing reporting. So in that particular chapter, this is another video based on integrated reporting. So up till now, whatever chapters we have covered, we have seen that we are only talking about the numbers. We are not talking about the other aspects that are there in a business or maybe in an organization. So how should we report that and how should we accommodate for that? So about that we are going to study in this particular chapter, which is of integrated reporting. Moving on now, why this particular chapter came into the picture. So first of all, you are the CFO of a mid-sized manufacturing firm. Your annual report shows record profits, earnings per share is up by 18%, yet your large institution investors just sent a warning letter questioning your company's long-term viability. That means you have a really good business, profits are good, the earning per share is going up, but still your investors, they are a bit worried whether your company will last in the long term or not. So why they are questioning this? Because you are doing what? You are depleting the groundwater, and then you have a high employee turnover. Employee turnover means what? That your employees are leaving your organization at a faster rate. Then there are local communities that are filing complaints against your business, that you are creating a lot of noise pollution. Then you have suppliers who are on the brink of financial collapse. So these are some of the qualitative aspects that are not gonna appear on your financial statements. So that is why integrated reporting comes into the picture. So this is precisely the problem that integrated reporting was designed to solve, because it connects your financial story with economic, social, governance and human capital. Okay. Now, why this concept exists? Because the core problem with the traditional reporting was that it only talks about the revenues, profits, assets and liabilities. So that is why this particular concept comes into the picture, because we are doing what? We are looking into the qualitative aspects as well. Now coming to the share value shift. So there were two scholars, Porter and Kramer. They argued that the business, if a business wants to grow in a long term, they should not only keep their shareholders happy but also their society happy. They should think not only just about making profits, but they should also ensure that people who are there in and around their business, they should also be not being any kind of harm should be done to them. If we are doing anything like that, like if we are damaging the environment where our business is placed, we are manufacturing any such thing which is causing a lot of this smoke is there, maybe lot of noise is also there. So eventually what will happen? The area in which my factory is based out, the people who will be there, they will do what? They will start raising concern, they will start raising questions against my business, and because of that I might have to move somewhere else. But again, if I move somewhere else, again that similar situation might happen. So if we are not resolving these issues, we are doing what? We are actually borrowing we are borrowing from our future. That is, we are borrowing from the future. So that is why this concepts came into the picture. Then again, talking about the stakeholder evolution. What are stakeholders? Stakeholders is not the shareholder. Shareholders are one of the stakeholders, but what are stakeholders? First of all, people who are impacted by my business. There could be internal stakeholders and external stakeholders. Internal stakeholders, best example, shareholders, the employees, the board of directors. External stakeholders like the government, the society, the suppliers, they are the external stakeholders. So traditional reporting, that is the income statement, the balance sheet, the statement of cash flows, whatever we prepare, it is just for the traditional reporting. Like it is mainly helping the shareholders to evaluate the company's performance. But what about the stakeholders? Who is looking out for them? Who is concerned about them? So that is why integrated reporting comes into the picture. Why financial reporting alone is not sufficient? Why? Because it is about the past only. It reports only the past performance, no forward looking signals. Then incomplete value. Why? Because it excludes the human, natural, social and intellectual value drivers. Then no externalities, that means no effect. It cannot capture the positive or negative spillovers to the third parties. That means how we have, like suppose if I have done a groundwater pollution because of some kind of manufacturing we are doing, will it be reported on the financial reporting? No. Then no strategy link, because it does not shows like the financial reporting, the traditional financial reporting, that how my company's long-term vision is related to the long-term capital preservation, how I am preserving my capital so that I can achieve what I have aspired for my organization. So that is why integrated reporting came into the picture. Now, before we move forward, we need to understand three things. One is the integrated report, one is the integrated thinking, and one is the integrated reporting. Now, we have to see this in reverse chronological order. First, we have to do the integrated thinking. Then once the integrated thinking is done, then integrated reporting will come into the picture. And lastly, we will have the integrated report. I will take an analogy for this. Like, let's take an example that you are in school. You are in school, your the teacher wants to know that how will you get good marks in your final exam. So you will tell your teacher that I am thinking in this way, that I will sleep on right time, I will not use social media and phone a lot, I will eat healthy, I will exercise every day, I will come to the school on time, I will do my homework, I will do the revision properly, I will appear for all the tests, and I will take less number of holidays from school. So this is my thinking. This is my thinking to ensure that at the end of the year, whatever output I am getting, like whatever results I am getting, it's gonna be great, so that I not only have the good marks, but also I take part in extracurricular activities. Now, every 3 months or maybe every 6 months, school will conduct examination or maybe mock test, something like that, or unit test. So in that you will get what? You will get an analysis that okay, how I have done, what thinking I had, whatever kind of thinking I had, the way I have worked, whether it is fine or not, whether I am able to achieve whatever I am thinking to report in my reporting is fine or not. If my thinking is not aligning with my final output, then I will little bit change my thinking, the way I am doing my revision, the way I am taking my extra classes, so that my integrated reporting, the integrated report, the final report card which my parents will get, in that my marks are good. They can also see that I am also participating well in the extracurricular curricular activities. So that is what the concept is: integrated reporting, integrated report and integrated thinking. So first comes the integrated thinking. You should think in the right way. You should think not just about this particular business, like not just about the numbers, not just about the shareholders, you should also think about the stakeholders. Then your integrated report, that means you should ensure integrated reporting, that means you should ensure that you are ensuring that the society is also doing fine. You are creating value for them, you are creating employment, you are requesting more raw data or maybe more kind of this supply from your suppliers. That is integrated reporting. And final integrated report, which is a periodic document which shows that how much value did we create. Now, the three concepts are related, but they are distinct. Why? Because first comes the integrated thinking, then comes the integrated reporting, and lastly we have the integrated report. Now, what is the primary purpose? What is the primary purpose of integrated reporting? So the primary purpose of the integrated reporting is to explain the providers of financial capital how an organization creates value over time. That means the people who are providing the financial capital, that is, it could be my equity holders, my shareholders, or it could be my creditors or my lenders, the banks which have given me the money. To them I can explain that how we are creating some value, some worth for the organization. Who are the providers of financial capital? Investors, lenders and others who supply the funds. Okay, now who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders of our business are employers, suppliers, business partners, local communities, legislators, regulators and policymakers. Now comes the IIRC's goals, mission, vision and objective. What is IIRC? IIRC is International Institution of Reporting Council, something like that it is there. Integrated Reporting Council, yeah. International Integrated Reporting Council. So this is an international body which is being created, which encourages the businesses to do the integrated reporting. Now what is the goal, mission, vision and objective? What does IIRC wants from the organization? They want them to improve the quality of the information provided to the capital providers. They promote cohesive, efficient corporate reporting. Then they want accountability for all 6 capitals. What are 6 capitals? We will study further. Or then they want support integrated thinking and decision making. That is, they want that the business should have integrated thinking and decision making. What is the mission? Mission means how they are gonna do it. First of all, they want to establish the integrated reporting and thinking. That means they want that the organization how should they do? First of all, they should have that business practice that is in the interest of the interest of the society, and they want that both the public and the private sector should have this integrated reporting and thinking. Coming to the vision, that means what do they dream of? They want that financial stability and sustainable development should be there. That means their company should not be low on money, and also they are developing at a equal pace. It should not be like that one year they have made a lot of progress and the next year they are not able to make that much progress. Then coming to the target, what is the target? The target is to change the corporate reporting system so that integrated reporting becomes the global norm. They want that all the organizations globally should follow the concept of integrated reporting. Now, value creation and 6 capitals. What is value creation? Value creation is the process of producing outputs that are more valuable than the inputs consumed. That means whatever we are giving in our business, we are putting it in our business. That should be what? That should be more that should be the whatever we are putting and whatever we are getting out. The output should be more valuable as compared to what we are putting in our business. Like for example, I have employees who are BCom graduates in my business. Now they are the employees who are doing some kind of value creation. Maybe they are manufacturing clothes, they are designing clothes. The kind of clothes they are designing, it's like someone who has a designer kind of a mindset, who is someone qualified, like who is a graduate from NIFT. It looks like of that particular level. So that is what it is, value creation is about. That means the output is more valuable than what we are putting in. So for the organizations, how we can do for enabling that financial returns to providers or financial capital, and for others, stakeholders and society at large. That means how we can create value for the organization by providing the returns to the providers of financial capital. That is, the shareholders should get proper dividends, the lenders, the creditors, they should get back their money on time. And for the like how to create value for the others, that is for the stakeholders and the society at large. One important thing, one critical insight: the value of a company creates or itself is directly interrelated with the value it creates for others. You cannot sustainably maximize one while ignoring the rest. That means you cannot function in this way that you are only creating value for your business, for your shareholders, and you are not creating any kind of value and not creating anything positive for the other people. So you have to create the value for both the people, like both for the shareholders as well as for the society. They are interrelated. It cannot be like you're just doing it for one thing. Then value is created when benefits from the capital exceeds the capital consumed. Value is preserved through continuous improvement, superior quality and customer satisfaction. Value is diminished when poor strategy or execution causes goals not to be achieved. So that's how can you preserve it? Through continuous improvement. How it will be diminished? That means it will be demolished, or maybe the quality will reduce by poor strategy or execution. Now, coming to the externalities. Externalities means what are the consequences, what are the effects. There could be positive effects, there could be negative effects. What are the positive effects? For example, you have a well-educated workforce that raises the productivity for employers who did not pay for that education. It may result in a net increase to the value embodied in the capitals. That means positive consequences what you can have. Suppose you have a very good workforce and they are very like extremely intelligent, they are quite qualified, and it will result in net increase to the value embodied in the capitals. That means it ensures the organization, like the value which the organization is creating, it is impacting all the six capitals. That means the productivity which we are getting from the employer, from the employees, the output we are getting, though the organization did not pay for their education, but the output which we are getting, it's very very good. So that is like one positive externality. One negative externality is that a factory's air pollution damages the health of the nearby residents who bear the cost without receiving any benefit, and it may result in a net decrease to the value embodied in the capitals. So that is what a negative externality is. Now, coming to the six capitals. The six capitals, they are very very important. Now, that means the organizations, any business, any organization, they use and affect it in process of creating the value. They use these capitals and they also affect these capitals. Coming to the financial capitals, what is the financial capital? The money which you obtain through debt, equity, grants or the reinvestments. Then coming to the manufactured capital. Manufactured capital means what? Any physical object which the business has manufactured or maybe they have produced, like roads, bridges, water treatment, or trucks, warehouses and public highways. Then coming to the intellectual capital, intellectual property, if any copyright, patent, softwares, anything, any trademark is there, that is one intellectual property. Coming to the human capitals, human capital means what? The employees which are there in your business, that is the human capital. Coming to the social and relationship capital means what? How is the relationship between the company and the society? For example, if in the heart of the Bangalore, maybe in Koramangala area, there is a building of Tata, like Tata has put up a huge factory setup over there. So in India, people have a lot of trust in Tata. They know that they won't harm the society in any way. So in that way, the company and like the company, that particular company, the Tata and the society, they have a really good relationship with each other. So that is like one social and relationship capital. Then coming to the natural capital, that means the air, water, land, the forest, minerals, and all these are like what? Natural capital, how we are impacting it. Now, how to remember this? We have this particular mnemonic, this memory trick is over here for us to remember it. Coming to the value creation process, how it is the value creation process? First, you input the six capitals. You will have the six capitals, you will input them. Then first of all, we also input the six capitals, then you will do certain business activities, you will get the output, and lastly you will have the outcome. Output means what actually you get, the products or maybe the waste it is there. Outcome is like what happens because of this output, that is what is the outcome. And as you can see, this value creation process is an infinity sign. What does infinity means? That means it will be there for forever. So that means value creation is a continuous process, it's a recurring process, it's a continuous cycle. Okay, inputs are the six capitals. Business activities converts input through business models. Outputs are products, services, byproducts and waste. Outcomes are the internal and the external consequences for the capitals. Outcome versus output, P versus E. Output is what? Is the produce. Outcome is what? The effect on the capitals. Now, coming to the external environment, what is the external environment? External environment is the something which is uncontrollable, which is not within our this particular control of the business. That is what the external this environment is about. economic conditions, technological change, societal issues, and environmental challenges. This cannot be controlled but must be monitored, understood, and responded to. That means we should watch them clearly, we should understand them clearly, and accordingly we should react towards them so that our business is not impacted that much. Then we have some governance elements. What are they? First of all, mission and vision, that is what is the purpose and what is the dream of the business. Then come the risks and opportunities. Risks and opportunities means what? That what danger does the business have and what are the chances for them. Then strategy and resource allocation, what is the plan of the business and how they are going to use the money, people, and time wisely. Then governance, that what is the board of director doing, they are watching everything or not, they are ensuring things are running fine or not. Then coming to the performance, that is what is the result out of it. Then outlook, that means having a futuristic vision about it. Now coming to the 8 content elements and 7 guiding principles. We have 8 content elements and 7 guiding principles. First of all, 8 content elements, it is the story of the company. 8 content elements, it is the story of the company. Then 7 guiding principles, the principles are there that will help you in understanding that how to write that particular integrated report. Now organizational overview and external environment, this is about the organizational overview and external environment. This is about that who are we as an organization, what do we do, and what is happening around us. That is what it is. Then second is governance. Governance is about who makes sure that the company is running honestly and properly, that it is there. Then third, business model, how company makes money and creates value, that it is about. Then risks and opportunities, what can hurt us and what can help us to grow, that is the risks and opportunities. Then coming to the resource strategy and resource allocation. Strategy and resource allocation, it's about that what's our plan and how we will use our money and how we are going to manage the people in our organization, that it is about. Then coming to the performance is did our plan work, what results did we get, that is about the performance. Then outlook, that means what do we expect to be there in the future, like we have already discussed this in the previous page. So that is what the outlook is about, having a futuristic approach. Then basis of preparation and presentation, that means how do we prepare the report and when did the info come from, where did the info come from for preparing that particular report. Coming to the 7 guiding principles. The 7 guiding principles is about the how to write the report. So first is strategic focus and future orientation. It is focusing on long-term goals and future connectivity of information. It shows how everything is connected. Then stakeholder relationship. Stakeholder relationship is about that we should listen to and care about everyone that is affected by our business. Then materiality means what, that in our integrated report we should only include those items or maybe only those information that is relevant, that is important, that matters to someone, that is about the materiality. Then conciseness, that means keeping the report short and clean. That means we should keep the report not too detailed also, but also ensure to keep it clean and to include only those things which matters to us. Then reliability and completeness, that means give true, accurate, and complete information. Then consistency and comparability. Consistency and comparability means what? Presenting the info the same way every year so that it can be compared easily. That means last year how we have prepared the integrated report, it should be in the similar manner, and even the year before that, so that we can compare it really easily. Coming to the reporting requirements, global overview. This part of the chapter is not that important, but again we should study that because it is given as per the LOS which has been released by the IMA. So what are the reporting requirements regarding the integrated report in different countries? For United States, it's not mandatory, but non-financial reporting is required for mine safety and conflict mineral disclosures. Then for the European Union, for large public companies, it is required. Then for the South Africa, it is the first country to mandate the integrated reporting, that is the South Africa. So these are the points which I am highlighting, you should remember. Yeah, over here we have the IRC which I discussed about in one of these slides previously. So these are some of the the organizations which are related to the integrated reporting. Nothing much to memorize over here, just read through it, and just IIRC is the most important one, and integrated reporting, this is the sign of the integrated reporting, that's how it is working. Okay, now we have the benefits and challenges of adopting integrated reporting. Some of the benefits and the challenges. What are the advantages? First of all, reporting discipline and clarity. That means it makes companies report clean, clear, organized, and very easy to understand. Then better internal decision making. That means it helps managers to make smarter decisions. Then stronger information and control system. That means it improves the company's records and controls. Then greater employee engagement. Where is my mouse? Yeah, greater employee engagement. It ensures that the employees understand the company's purpose, and we should take their input also when we are doing any changes in our business, so that the employees also, they feel inclusive and more involved in the business. Then reduced reputational risk. That means builds trust and protects the company's image. That is about the reduced reputational risk. Then enhance long-term investor confidence. That is, make investors trust the company for the future. So that is what is all about the this advantages. Coming to the disadvantages, the limitations or the challenges, whatever you say it. So it requires top level commitment. That is, it for integrated reporting, the top level management, the CEO, the CFO, and the COO, all this must be present in the business, and they should be fully supporting it, then only it can happen. Then no established non-financial standards. That means there are no rules or maybe any fixed guidelines that how the integrated reporting should be. So that way sometimes measuring the non-financial information can be a bit challenging. Then materiality is subjective and complex. That means it's quite difficult for any organization to decide which particular this is material and which is immaterial for the business. Then adequate assurance is difficult. That means it's difficult to verify that all non-financial information is correct. Then significant investment is required. That means sometimes it takes a lot of time, money, and effort for making this integrated reporting. That is one thing. Then risk of disclosing the competitive information. That means we might have something in our business which is our USP, which only we have, but because of the integrated reporting, like suppose I have five IIM graduates, IIM toppers in my business who are working for me, and because of that my business is flourishing. Now if I'm disclosing that in my integrated reporting, there could be a high possibility that my competitor gets to know about them, and they might offer a job to them, and they would like to take them in their business, and because of that my business can be hampered. So yeah, that's all about the integrated reporting, everything we should know about it. And there are not going to be any numerical questions from this chapter, because it's purely this like subjective kind of a chapter where we have theory questions only. Now some key memory tricks over here are given for like what things you need to remember: the 6 capitals, then the 7 principles using which we prepare the report, the 8 elements, then how the value flows in a business, the business activity, the continuous, that infinity sign we saw that. Then we have the time orientation of content elements. Performance is checked backwards. Outlook and strategy is having a forward approach. Then we have the risks and opportunities, then the context. Key dates and timeline is given over here. It's not that important, but it's just given over here for your reference purpose. So one thing you should remember, that in 2013 IR framework was being published. Then examiner twists and common mistakes. This is one thing which we need to be very careful about. That is one thing they can give is that manufactured capital includes external asset. That is one thing. Then one twist, ISA 26000 is not a reporting framework, though it is a framework we have seen above. Then one twist, primary audience is the capital providers. That is there, but it is not just the capital providers. We should also the primary purpose is to explaining to the capital providers how the value is being created. Then one twist is that risk versus outlook versus performance. That means past period is related to the performance, future expectations related to the outlook, current specific risk plus what we are doing now is about the risks and opportunities. Then coming to the exam thinking tip, when a scenario describes a specific disclosure and asks which content element it belongs to, apply the time orientation test first. That means if any scenario is given, we should see and understand whether it is related to past, whether it is related to the future, and then accordingly we should function upon it and we should choose the answer. But I don't expect many questions from this chapter. Like it is like something in which we have whatever we have highlighted, you should focus on that, like what are the 6 human capitals, then what are the elements, and what are the 7 elements, then the business activity process, what is outcome, what is output. On these things you should focus about. Okay, so in that way I think we are good to go with this chapter. Anyways, thank you so much guys for staying by, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, any doubts, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you so much.